Okay, in this video I want to do some review before I go to your main assignment. Operations with I. Now, look at that. You got a plus, and a minus. We'll go plus negative on that. And we have a plus outside, so it's all plus. I need to do no work over here. Okay? I just go blank plus blank I. So the constant's 5 plus 8 is 13. 2 plus negative 3 is negative 1. That's easy. Walk in the park. That's what you do when there's addition and subtraction. The only thing you have to watch out for is if there's a subtraction in the right there, then you have to change the signs inside the parentheses after it. Okay, now this one, operations, you got plus, you'll need to put times there, and then times here. Now when you're timesing, you got to do some work over here. So you got 2 terms there and 2 terms there. So that's 4 products you're going to find. So 5 to 2. 5 to negative 10i. And then 3i to 2. Then 3i to negative 10i. So 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times negative 10i is negative 50i. 3i times 2 is 6i. And then 3 times negative 10 is negative 30i to the second. Okay, these products are simplified, but that one isn't. That's negative 30 times negative 1, which ends up as 30. So that is how you get blank plus blank I. Okay. So 10 plus 30 is 40. And then collect the i's. Negative 50 plus 6 is negative 44. Bingo. Now, quotients are a different story. You need to count the terms on top. There's 2. If there's multiple terms, I need to have in parentheses. This is just 1 term. So you're multiplying to get rid of the I. Now when it's all about the bottom. Don't even look at the top. When the bottom, there's 1 term, then you just multiply by I. Okay? Don't multiply by 2i. Okay? Just multiply by I. That's 1 term. You can put a 1 in front of it if you want. Okay? Just don't, yeah. So that's 2 terms by 1 term. Okay? So I go 6 times I. If you want to put a 1, do it. Okay? And then 5i times I. So that's 6i. That's simplified. 5i to the second. That is not. That's 5 times negative 1, which is negative 5. So we end up with negative 5 plus 6i. Then on bottom, 1 term by 1 term. That is just 1 multiplication. 1 by 1 is 1. Okay? 1 times 1 is 1. So that's 1 product. 2i and I. So 2i to the second. I to the second is negative 1. So 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. So mission accomplished. You got your I out of the bottom. Okay. Last one. How many terms is that? 2. Put in parentheses. How many terms is that? Well, if you put a 1 there, that's 2. And there's a plus. A plus separates the terms. 1, 2. So does a minus. 1, 2. Well, in that one you had just 1 term on bottom, so you just multiplied by I. Now you got 2. So you need to use your conjugate rule. CJ, conjugate. So that's when you switch it to a plus, and then 7, 1i. And then the top is 7 plus 1i. Okay. So that's 2 by 2 on top, 2 by 2 on bottom. So guess what? That's 4 products to evaluate from the numerator and denominator. So 8 times 7, 8 times 1i, then 2i times 7, and 2i times 1i. So it's 56, 8i, 14i, 2i to the second. Okay. Remember, I to the second's -1. 2 times -1 is -2. Okay, so on your fraction, you combine the 56 with the -2, and that's 54. Then for the i's, you add 8 and 14. That's 22i. Okay, now how about the bottom? That's another 2 by 2. So we go 7 to 7, and the i's are going to drop out here. That's what a conjugate does. Then 7 times 1i, and then -1i times 7, and then -1i times +1i. So it's 49, 7i, -7i, then -1i to the second. But again, that's -1, so it's -1 times -1, which is 1. So you got 49, 7i, -7i, and 1. That's the four things I'm looking at. So 49 plus 1 is 50. And then the i's combined is 0. Now you could reduce all those by 2, and it'd be 27 plus 11i over 25. You can do that if you want. I'm not going to care either way. Okay, here's what you're learning on today's assignment. Now you're going to solve equations. Now we're just going to solve them like we're used to. They're all quadratic equations, meaning x squared. So, x to the second power, that's 2 solutions for x. And we do what we normally do, A, C, C. AC quadratic equations, we're not going to factor any of that stuff. We're just going to get the x squared, figure out what x squared equals. So we minus 4, that's 81. Then we divide by -3, and x squared is -27. Now I apply the square root, but it's a negative. So I bring out the I, okay? And then I go to my perfect square list, okay? That's got all the square roots, because 27 isn't a perfect square. So I put divided by, and I look to divide it by these numbers. So 27 divided by 25 is a decimal. 27 divided by 16 is a decimal. 27 divided by 9 is 3, okay? So 9, 3. Okay, so you put, remember, the I has to go then in between the numbers, okay? So the solution to that problem is 3i square root of 3, and then the same thing with a negative in front of the solution, okay? Because it could be positive or negative. And again, a brief reminder, here's how that ends up as -27. Because you know how it's x to the second? So it'd be 3i square root of 3. That's all one term. There's no plus minus, okay? And that's 3i square root of 3. So you take 3 times 3 is 9. I times I is I to the second. And then square root of 3, square root of 3, square root of 9. Now, obviously that doesn't look right. So you got 9, that's -1 times 3. And that ends up as -27. That's how that works, okay? Now, obviously, we don't have time to show that on every problem, but it's me verifying it. Okay, there's 2 answers here. That's A, C, C. So again, all these first several are going to be A's and C's. So AC's, we got to get the x squared by itself. So first I get the C's where they go together. So -60. So 5x squared equals -60. Then I divide by 5. And x to the second power equals -12. Then I go positive and make I, okay? Then I see if 12, I know 12 is not a perfect square, so then I take it to that list and start dividing. So 12, start with 9. Nope. 4, yep, okay. So it's divisible by 4. So we got 4 and 3. Now the square root of 4 is 2. Okay. And then the i's got to go in between them. So it'd be 2i square root 3 and then 2i square root 3 with negative. Okay. Those are called complex roots. Okay, next one, we have negative 6x to the second power plus 2 equals 218. So there's two answers. Again, that means it's a quadratic equation. So you got A, C, C. So you're going to subtract 2 from both sides, and that takes you to 216. Then you're going to divide by negative 6. Remember, you're getting the x squared by itself, and then that makes negative 36. Okay, now you apply the square root. Now, I don't need to divide really here because 36 is a perfect square. It's equal to 6. So you just go put 6, not with a square root, just 6, and you just put I after it. I. So 6i, negative 6i. Okay, next problem. Two answers. Okay, and you can put a 1 in front of there. That's your A, that's your C. 0 doesn't get a label, okay? So with AC quadratic equations, we want to just get the x squared by itself. So I minus 25. So 1x squared would equal negative 25. You can divide by 1 or just get rid of it. So I've solved for x squared. Now I just have to apply the square root. Okay. Positive I. Okay. 25's here. It's 5. Okay. So I just go down the corner and write 5. 5i. No more square root. When it's on the list, the square root vanishes. So 5i, negative on the second solution. Now you're wondering, how come these didn't have square roots in the answer? Well, because they were on the list and the square root's gone. Okay, now the next part. Now the game changes. You'll see why. Alright, so x squared plus 4x plus 5. A, B, C. Okay. A, B, C. Now it's A, B, C. Well, first off, we've got to make sure we have a 0. Then we go do what we always do and apply the discriminant. Okay, so B is 4. A is 1. C is 5. Okay. All right, now I punch that in. Okay, double it. Remember, you need your, even though parentheses comes up on its own, you still got to be typing what's there. Okay, 4, 1, 5. Okay, you got a domain error. Now here's what happens when you don't just give up on the problem. That's a no-go. You need to solve it without the calculator. Okay, 4 to the second is 16. 4 times 1 times 5 is 20. Well, that makes negative 4. Bring out the I, and the square root of 4 is 2, so it'll be 2i. Okay. Now that is not the answer. Now you need to set up the song. Opposite of b, plus or minus the square root. B squared minus 4ac. B squared minus 4ac over 2a over 2a. So the opposite of positive 4 is negative 4. Now I just figured out this square root. I know the whole thing is 2i. Okay. And a is 1. Okay. 2 times 1 is 2. So you got negative 4, 2i, 2 times 1 is 2. Okay. Now all of those numbers can be reduced by 2. Would I dock you if you didn't do it? Probably not, but you could divide all these by 2. So it'd be negative 2, 1, and 1. If you have 1 on the bottom, you can just forget it. Okay? If you have another number other than 1, you got to keep it, but a 1 on the bottom, you can forget it. So how do you write your answer? 2 plus 1i. Second answer, 2 minus 1i. You don't do any math because you can't. One number has an I, one doesn't. So you don't add on top. The I doesn't allow you to add. Okay? 2 plus 1i, 2 minus 1i. Okay, next problem. That's called a complex answer with an ABC. 3x to the second plus 2x plus 2 equals 0. So 2 solutions. Give yourself some room to write the answers. Don't just put them right there. because I'm going to want some room. Okay, I apply the discriminant. This is why I've told you to do that, because a t-chart, you're never going to be able to work it out, so you're wasting time, okay? So B is 2, A is 3, C is 2. Okay, punch that in again. Domain error. Why did we? Okay, so when I get domain error, I need to go through the process. So it's 4 times. So a domain error knows I know I'm going to need I out of the square root. 4 times 3 times 2 is 24. Well, that's negative 20, and that's why you need to bring out the I, because a calculator is not going to figure out I's. So 20 is not a perfect square, so that means we need to divide, okay? So 20 by 16 won't work, 20 divided by 9 doesn't work, 20 divided by 4 does work, okay? Because when you divide 20 here, there's why it works. You divide by 4, you get 5. All the rest of that crap's decimals. So it's 2, so 2 square root 5. When you have a hole in a square root, you put the I out there. So remember, that ain't your answer though. A lot of people are going to put that in the negative. No, okay? You still got to do the quadratic formula. Okay, so opposite of plus 2 is negative 2. The square root, I know what that is. It's 2i square root 5, okay? And then a is 3. So what do we really have? Well, we got negative 2, then 2i square root 5, and then 2. Now, the square root there stops you, both the I and the square root stop you from being able to add and subtract. You can't do that. What you can do though is look at the outside numbers and see if you can divide it down, okay? You don't really, the number in the square root doesn't count. You don't need that, okay? You need this, this, and this. Well, they're all 2's, so they can all be divided by 2. So that would be 1. That would be 1. Remember, I don't have to account for the square root number, and that would be 1, okay? Now, if you have a 1 on the bottom, you can discard it. It has to be a 1, though. If it's like a 3, you need to keep it. So negative 1 plus 1i square root 5, and then negative 1 minus 1i square root 5. Again, a square root or an I means don't add or subtract. You can't do it. Okay. Next one, 4x second minus 3x plus 5 equals 0. 2 answers. Okay. Okay, got an A, got a B, got a C. Okay, so figure out your discriminant. Negative 3, A is 4, C is 5. Now just make the attempt. It's probably going to say domain error since that's kind of the point of the lesson, okay? But domain error, exactly. So when you get a domain error, you need to go through and simplify it because you're going to have to use I. So that's 9. 4 times 4 times 5 is 80. So that would make negative 71, okay? Now, bring out the I. 71 is not a perfect square, so I divide. Okay. So 71 divided by 64, nope. 49, nope. Up, 36, nope. Up, 25, nope. Up, dang it. Nope. Up, delete, then 9, nope. It's either 4 or we have to keep it. Okay, we're keeping it. Now that ain't the answer though. You have to use the, now you have to go to the entire song. Opposite of B, plus or minus B squared root, B squared minus 4AC, B squared minus 4AC over 2A, over 2A. So opposite of b is 3. This whole square root I just figured out. Now you have to put I square root 71. I would put a 1 in front of the I just to see a number there. And then a is 4. And 2 times 4 is 8. So clean that up. 1i square root 71. You can't add or subtract up there. Okay? And then 8. Now look at your outside. 3, 1, and 8. Those would only be in the first row, so we can't simplify it. Okay? So we write 3 plus 1i square root 71 over 8, and then 3 minus 1i square root 71 over 8. Okay? That's how that's written. Okay, last problem. 7x squared minus 1x plus 12 equals 0. Okay, I'm going to give myself some more room, so I got more room to write, because obviously some of these answers end up long. ABC equal to 0, just like it should be. Let me set up here. Some of you are like wondering, what about those ABC ones where you get the C on the other side? No, that was a one-day thing. We're not going to do it again. That was just to appease Mr. Larson. Okay. B, -1. 4, A is 7, C is 12. I hate that method, that solve but by completing the square. It's stupid. Okay. That's 1. 4 times 7 times 12 is 336. -335. Hermson's going to give you a little hint here. It doesn't divide by anything. Okay, so that's prime. Now, don't write that down as your answer. You have to now go back to the quadratic formula. The whole thing. On an ABC problem, that's never been the answer. Okay. I mean, if it's something weird, not a whole number. Okay. Then you use quadratic formula. This is no different. So that'd be 1, -1, and then 4, A is 7, C is 12, then A is 7. Okay. So 2 times 7 is 14. So you got 1. Okay. And we already know what that is. Okay. That's the I square root 335. Put a 1 there just so you see a number. 1, 1, and 14 you wouldn't be able to do anything with. So it'd be 1 plus 1i square root 335 over 14. Okay. And then 1 minus 1i square root 335 over 14. Okay. Okay, basically that's how you write it. You just write that thing. One answer is with the plus, one's a minus, but you can't, the I and the square root block the adding and subtracting, so you can't do it, okay?